Chapter 1 The Fall of Farcarinon. Even as we reckon time, our history is long. So long its beginnings have been worn away by the passage of time. Long before man came to be, we were. It could be said that our history begins with the Undarkened, for that terrible conflict scoured away all that we had been before it, leaving us one purpose: survival. Held a ethereal Caerthalion, of the reign of great Queen Vieliessar. Perchelion used to tell me the hunt rode through every storm. When I grew old enough to question, I said I did not believe her. I remember how she slapped me, and said I would never become a knight of my father's Misne, for to doubt the starry hunt rode out to claim every great warrior meant I would never wield a sword. I remember I laughed, and said there were not enough storms in all the year for them to do that. Lady Holder Natarenwea forced her mind to focus on such ancient trifles, for to allow it liberty would mean she thought of things it would not be good to think on now. Her child-swollen body shuddered harder than the cold should merit, even as the horse's body shook with weariness. Lightning stitched the woods to sudden brightness, and in its light she could see Falthiel, his face turned toward her, shouting something. She could not make out the words over the howl of the wind and the thunder of the horse's hooves. Deianiren had given their mounts enough of the battle cordial to poison them. They would run until they died. They would have to. Caerthalion's dogs were a candle mark, no more, behind them now, and Natarenwea knew they outnumbered the scant handful of her surviving protectors. Suddenly her mount put a foot wrong, slipping and staggering through mud and autumn leaves for a handful of terrifying moments before finding its balance and running on. The near fall jarred her agonizingly, but Natarenwea did not cry out. She would not shame her bondmate, even though all her broken soul yearned for was to follow him into the death he had found. Seranthan Farcarinon would have made her queen over all the 100 houses. If only Seranthan had never known of Emrathian's curse. If only he had not taken it into his heart as if it were a lover's message meant for him alone. As reasonable to wish he had never known of the sun, or the sky, or the trees. Why was our bond not enough for you? Why must you reach for more? "Near, my lady!" Belival shouted, his voice loud enough to cut through the roar of the storm. Near to the sanctuary of the star, near to safety, near to revenge. Pain gripped her, this wave coming sooner than the last, and when it passed she tasted the blood from where she'd bitten her lip. She had been upon the birthing couch when the traders had come. That the child had delayed even from nightfall to nightfall was more grace than she had hoped for. The unborn babe would not grant her yet more clemency. She must be delivered soon, or this nightmare ride would have been for nothing. Only within the sanctuary of the star could she be safe. The bright call of a war horn sheared through the noise of their flight and jarred her back to full consciousness. Any daughter of the 100 houses learned early the strategies and treacheries an enemy might use to gain what it wished. She knew their pursuers had no need to signal an intended attack. It was an attempt to startle the prey into rash action, so they might be easily taken. The horn called again, closer. Suddenly Natarenwea found herself alone. Moments later the full fury of the storm struck her. So much water was flung at her by the wind that she coughed and choked on it. The shock was so great that in her exhaustion it took her precious heartbeats to understand what had happened. Belival and Deianiren have turned back. The three of them had been in the lead. If Belival and Deianiren had turned back to throw themselves against their pursuers, the others had as well. Farewell. Farewell, friends, companions, cousins. We shall meet again in Tilderangelor beneath the trees. She would have wept, save that her tears had all been shed long before.